Welcome everyone, episode number 2. How are you today? How did you like the
Very
last
fine,
episode?
sir. Yeah, it was great fun taping.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was
Great.
good. It's been a
Okay.
while, so perhaps slightly rusty, but getting the hang of it. So I hope the second episode will go perhaps a bit smoother even.
We'll see. Exactly like I said, hang in there with us. We're getting back into it. It's been a few years. So talking about our last video, I did get an interesting comment. We started getting some comments on our videos, so I thought let's read one. And I would like to hear your answer to that comment, if you're
With
ready.
pleasure.
So, Triforce Rich, he answered to our, or he placed a comment about our talk about AP. AP's strategy with the gray market isn't a contradiction unless you just look at it from a surface level point of view. They need and love their watches selling for way over retail. They want watches on the gray market, but they also want the supply carefully managed to ensure it sells for a premium. Thus, they blacklist certain people for selling on the gray market to manage the supply going into the gray and also benefit from the hype generated by the huge premiums. AP probably has internal calculations of how many of their watches they want ending up on the gray and what sort of premiums would they like to see. He says, I do agree they're playing with fire by betting everything on one horse, probably the Royal Oak, although they tried to diversify with the code and failed. But for now, they are killing it. Yes, prices have come down a lot, but the ROs still sell for way over list. What is your opinion about that?
Okay, so there's no discrepancy in point of view on the last bit. But on the first bit, he kind of mentions an interesting point that they actually embrace it in their tactics to, on the one hand, fight against the gray market, but on the other hand, benefit from the gray market. And I do actually have to agree with that point. It's a valid point. And I'm very happy this gentleman took the time out to really listen to our video
absolutely.
and actually made a proper feedback point. So he thought about it himself too, but I do think on the long run it might be detrimental. As you can also see with Rolex, on the one hand people say, well, they artificially created this scarcity in order to become more wanted. Therefore, everybody knows Rolex is a good investment or thought it was a good investment because they go way over retail, because they, by purpose, produce less or sell less than they could.
Supply demand, yes.
Yeah, but if that scale gets disbalanced, it might also end up being quite costly in the long run. But perhaps this gentleman has a point. There are many people working there that are obviously way more knowledgeable regarding these business skills in retail levels. So they probably did some guesstimations, I would say, well-educated guesses on how this would play out. So
I do agree. And to add to that, in my opinion, I think when they introduced some new models, they tried, at least maybe with the whole design team, and they shot, sometimes you miss. So you never know. What may the future bring, I guess.
Cool.
So for our standard segment of every episode, we have a wrist check. Today, I'll start. I'm wearing one of my favorite models, the Patek Philippe Aquanaut Reference 5065. In my opinion, why I love it so much is the size, the diversity of, you can put it on everything. Also, I love when we have the tritium dial, and I love it that you have it on a sporty bracelet. You could pretty much wear it on everything. It's diverse, and it's from Patek Philippe, one of my favorite brands. I think it's a perfect one watch collection.
yeah, I noticed you like it. I think you sold 4 or so in the last month.
I think so, something like
Or
that.
in the last 6 weeks. So therefore, we also bought 2 back. One,
True.
this 5065 from 2004, and the other one has the tritium dial and with the stainless steel bracelet. You like the bracelet, anything?
To be honest, I prefer the strap, the rubber strap, because secondly, I just want to add to that, we did sell a yellow gold one to our friend Sonny. We're mentioning him again. On
That's good.
that, it was also on the bracelet, of course. I loved it. I was always quite skeptical about the bracelet because at first you see it on pictures. It's kind of a brick bracelet. I didn't really like it. But on that gold Aquanaut, it was amazing. I think we talked about it, all of us, and we all fell in love with it. It was Rutger's favorite watch as well.
Yeah, that bracelet also lured me into the combination of an Aquanaut with the metal bracelet. So the
Yes.
first time I laid eyes on the yellow gold bracelet, However, now it shifted also my focus towards the more towards the steel models, because I also enjoy it now on a stainless steel one. Yet the 5167, that's a metal bracelet. Have you ever felt that one?
I haven't.
That's
no.
a psycho kind of production, man. It's terrible.
Is
really
it,
horrible bracelet.
Is it bad? Yeah.
It looks quite tacky. Already the first bracelet of the 5065, it's a bit clunky.
Yeah, true.
Let's say. On the second one, it's even worse. It's just the
I
quality.
didn't even
of
know
production.
they made it. Maybe that's why they're always seen on the rubber strap.
I think most people rather opt for the rubber strap. But the funny thing though is the other one we have, the 5065, comes with 2 rubber bracelets, like the green one and
the black one.
Black one and the stainless steel strap, so you can play
it's
around
like a full
bit.
set.
Yeah.
Were you ever able to buy it like that? You think complete with everything?
Sure. I mean, back in the days, if you bought when they released these watches, they weren't instantaneous hits.
No.
They were quite hard to sell for Patek because it's when they introduced it, it was quite out of their usual portfolio. Of course, they introduced the Nautilus some years prior to that, but they had the Neptune in between. We also traded 2 of those models, which is very elusive and underappreciated, according to me. But this wasn't their forte, so these steel sport watches wasn't their thing in the beginning, and they also lacked in sales. So if somebody went in the boutique and said, listen, I want to have the 5065, but I want to have it with 2 rubber straps and the stainless steel bracelet,
they wanted to make the sale.
Sure, they'd be happy to sell it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what's on your wrist?
I'm wearing myself a complicated Patek Philippe, something totally different. I would even say it diametrically opposes the 5065. This one being a rather elegantly sized Calatrava style case made by Fichet from 1943, and it is the reference 130, which is one of the most important and early chronographs by Patek Philippe. And this is not your average one. Why? It's in pink gold. And the pink gold models are way rarer and way more tucked away in collections. Especially it's hard to find them in a proper condition. This has some nice provenance. It's previously owned by the CEO of Whirlpool. I don't know if you know
exactly.
him.
Of course, I do. I
Patek,
have one at home.
Well, there you go. But it's a Patek. There's some new watches.
Business always goes on.
We're back. But this watch is kept exceptionally well, so the case is super sharp. You can still see all the hallmarks, and the dial is very, very crisp.
Yeah, immaculate.
So I'm very happy to have this watch in our collection. We added it rather recently. Diameter 33 millimeter, but the lug width is 20 millimeter. So that's pretty unusual.
Exactly. It's quite wide and stuff, but it falls in perfect harmony.
Exactly. Therefore, it wears also way bigger. And this is how I enjoy my Pateks the most.
Yes.
Vintage and complicated.
Exactly.
Stylish.
Talking about the ones you really like, I think we have a very nice selection in front of us. Since we're talking about Patek Philippe, we're both wearing one. Let's just dive into it. I see beautiful Perpetual calendars chronographs here, of which one of my favorites is definitely now out there, and I think your favorites are here as well.
Yeah, so the 3970 is a staple in the Patek Philippe collection because it combines 2 of the most important of their complications, meaning the chronograph function and the perpetual calendar. And the predecessors, of course, are the 2499 and the 1518s, which are
legends.
Legends, but hardly to be called affordable.
Absolutely.
Fine examples of those will start at like $500,000, and a 1518, a proper one. I just saw one actually from Max Bernardini. I was in Geneva this weekend, and Max was wearing one. Those watches are $1 million plus. Had the pleasure to enjoy it and try it on, of course, and talk with him. This one is also coming from Max Bernardini from Milano. He's a very important Patek collector and trader. But on the other hand, the 3970 is very affordable still.
Relatively, of course, it's still a lot of money.
100,000, 150,000 euros. It's not cheap.
But looking at their brethren, it's relatively affordable.
Exactly.
I think you've wrote an article about it, not recently, not too long ago.
Yeah, so the article came out, I think, a week ago on Bezel magazine. But I've been an advocate for this reference, so I also made the video on my KOV channel.
Collected Man?
Collected Man made an article and they referenced me.
Oh, okay. Then
I had some comments on the Collected Man article. But I made my own video on the KOV channel featuring a couple of the 3970s that I love to collect. And they're gaining traction a lot, I can see. But of course you have the more complicated and even more spectacular ones. But again, hardly to be called affordable.
True.
The 5004s.
I would say, comparing it to the 3970, I prefer, of course, the 5004, not denying that the best value for money in this spectrum is the 3970. I still believe it's a sleeper. We've always loved it in the team, all of us. We always have had a selection of 3970s in our collection. Be sure to check them out on our website, by the way. We have a few available. And next to that, the 5004 is just something we barely take out of the safe. We've taken this whole selection out of our external safes just for this special occasion. We will be sure to show them up close, of course. Tell us a bit more about this 5004 rose gold. I think it's quite a unique or special.
That one is very special. Yeah, so the platinum one with the black dial we've had for a while. We were happy enough to add the opaline dial last week, but that watch was sold, unfortunately, or fortunately, because we have a lot of money coming in to buy the 5004R. Just for price point of view, the opaline dial trades for a little bit less than the black dial 5004P, which is currently listed on our website for 430,000 euros.
Correct.
But if you have even deeper pockets and like the black dial, you might opt for the rose gold specimen, which are usually executed with the opaline dial. But this spectacular example, from the top of my head from 2006, comes with the black dial instead.
It's amazing.
So that's pretty special. Yeah.
Together with the numerals, the Arabic numerals is just stunning.
Yeah. So that's going to be available for sale in a bit. We'll enjoy it here first. Be quick.
Absolutely.
But this is a nice segue perhaps into the complicated Pateks that are really, in this auction season, claiming a very prominent spot. Because on Sotheby's they launched 3 very important Patek Philippe vintage ones, including the return of the 1563. Well, if you know a lot about Patek Philippe's chronographs, the 1463 is arguably their most important one, which is the Tassi Tondi. So there's the beautiful
pushers,
beautiful round pushers that are decorated. That case was also used, if you have less budget, in Mido and in Doxa. They also use this case,
Doxa, yeah,
which is fun, and they're like 10K or whatever. So you can also get a cool chronograph there. However, the 1463s, they start with 6-digit numbers. I think between 150 to name it, regardless regarding of the configuration. But the 1563 is what Sotheby's just announced. It's one of 3 known, and it's basically a 1463, but with a split second, so a rattrapant.
Oh, Jesus, okay.
So we have
like
the 5004s, yeah, but of course the 1563 doesn't have the perpetual calendar. But this is a very important specimen that has been on auction before. Now it returned. It has Breguet numerals. It's a real stunner, and Sotheby's is going hard on those, on the Patek vintage ones. Now I was in Geneva. I met with my friend Ali Neal from Two Tone Vintage, who also set up his own auction, really focused on Patek, because that's his.
Amazing.
That is
specialty.
Exactly. So he loves those, and I was lucky enough to see very spectacular watches. There are 2497 he had. He had a very interesting 3970 with 2-tone dial. He had a couple other moon phases, 3448 for example. So that was nice to see. And additionally, perhaps one of the most important finds in the vintage Patek world, fresh to the market, example being released on the next Monaco Legend Group auction.
Especially very cool piece. That was amazing.
Yeah, that's crazy. So it is a central second perpetual calendar automatic in pink gold with oversized, not so much oversized, but
a little bit larger than usual.
Large. No, usually they have baton markers.
Exactly. Yes.
This one has Arabic numerals, which is spectacular.
Yes.
It's an unknown example coming from the first owner, and that one is going on auction. And we've had the pleasure of having this watch in our hand already a couple of weeks ago when we were at Monaco Legends Group, because we're shooting a video with them for our KOV channel.
Coming soon.
So auction season is all about vintage complicated Pateks, and it's very, very exciting.
Yeah. I'm very excited to see that piece. Absolutely. It was very nice. It had a lot of history as well with it. Like a lot of, it was like a full set of where it came from, who got it commissioned, I believe that they mentioned. Next to that, talking about Geneva, you were there last weekend. I did get a comment, by the way, about the Geneva Watch Days, and somebody saw you. So I will read that. Abu Anisa, he said, nice to see the new content. Thank you. Did you enjoy the Geneva Watch Days? Followed you on the panel. Only one with proper knowledge.
Oof.
Compliments. Ooh, put him on a pedestal. Amazing. So, how did the Geneva Watch Days? How did you end up there? What was it like? What did you do?
Well, honestly, Wei Ko from Revolution Watch, the magazine, Revolution magazine, he reached out for me to join the panel.
Yes.
And when I saw the lineup, I had to say yes instantly because it were some industry titans. So I definitely disagree with the comment that I was the only one with the proper knowledge. It's way too kind, because in the panel was Max Bernardini, was the head of watches from Sotheby's, the head of watches from Christie's, the head of watches from Philips.
Mark was there, I think.
Mark Koslerich from Hodinkee was there, but he moderated the panel along with Wei Ko, and Max Bernardini was there. So there was a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience. So next to these gentlemen, my experience is almost lackluster. And in the audience, it was really nice because there were people like Oro Bax and Auro Montanari. So very important people were present there. So I was very much enjoying my day there because I only stayed for 24 hours.
It looks like it. I did see the panel. You can also see, we'll put a link in the description of the talk, because I see someone asking a question. I think you talked about it in depth, by the way. They said, how about a short 4-minute discussion, very specific, on the state of the vintage watch market? Thanks. AV is an institution for watch knowledge base. Thank you very much. This was by Padrai CSY 7385. I think you were talking about that during the, I remember you talking about that during the panel.
Yeah, so indeed you can watch the entire panel back. It's an hour. It's filled with knowledge, not only from me. And one of the, or at least the main subject of our panel was collecting watches post-hype era.
Yes.
So of course we already discussed the current state of the market there. And my point of view was that it was refreshing that the market, like the air got sucked out of the market, letting all the cowboys leave the stage. No more people just buying watches for the wrong reasons.
Exactly.
And somebody else, I think it was Geoff Hess, who mentioned an important point, because some of the prices went down. It's also more accessible now to get into collecting of certain models. Because if you have to buy a Zenith Daytona, and you can only buy a mediocre example for 30K, it's less interesting than as opposed to 20K now.
Exactly, now they're 25 for a very, very nice example.
Exactly, and of course the vintage watch market is way more stable. We didn't see the volatility that we saw in the modern watch market where the prices went sky high and then dropped even faster. But of course it also influenced the vintage market. If we stay on topic of the Daytonas, if an 116520 goes, or 116500, even the newer one, goes to 45K, more people will be drawn to the 16520, so that watch will also go up in price a little bit.
True.
But there are less people in the vintage watch market that are just buying these watches for profit or for an investment, and therefore also the correction has been way softer on the vintage watch market.
Yes, I agree. We did see that firsthand.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy Did you see other events, or did you enjoy the Geneva Watch Days event itself? Did you, except from the panel?
For sure. So again, there were many interesting people to talk to. Also, many collectors from Slavic countries and Asia, which was surprising to me. They flew out all the way, especially the Asian people. For the Slavic is not so far.
Yeah.
But it was very nice to meet those. Again, I only stayed for 24 hours, and I'm not well known into the world of these watch events. I go to auction weekends and I go to get-togethers, but these events are generally based around new brands or new releases and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So I think you might even have more experience there.
Well, I believe the event was organized during the whole COVID thing with Baselworld. Of course, you had Baselworld. We're all familiar with it. You didn't go that often.
Honestly, I've never been. So what is Baselworld about? I understand if you are a retailer and you're going to meet up with your providers of watches and you're going to see the new releases, but let's say you're just a regular guy. If you go to Baselworld, what can you do there?
In my opinion, it was mostly an event exactly for retailers, influencers, press, and also I would say just people visiting the last 2 days. So it was mostly closed. It was a very closed private event for the new releases of brands. So it's also nice to kind of see that we're talking about vintage on those kind of events. But of course, during COVID, that 2020 Baselworld pulled the plug. All the brands jumped ship, and I believe I read that they started Geneva Watch Days shortly after, together with what's it called? The SEHH, yeah, exactly. That's in January. Then you have April.
And what's Watches and Wonders?
Watches and
Or
Wonders
that's only
is the
Richemont?
new. That's the new Basel World. So that's where Rolex Patek is going, and then
Okay.
SEHH is Richemont, if I'm not mistaken. And then during the end of the year, we now have Watches and Wonders. I think it was 7 brands or something that I read that started it, and now it's 53. I read there were during when you were there. So it's growing very exponentially in size. But for me, in my personal experience, Basel World was a lot of fun because you get to meet the brands, the people behind the brands. When I am still Mr. Tudor, of course. So I hung out with Rolex, with Tudor, went to all the parties, the fun festivities, a lot of press opportunities. So in my opinion, it's not something for the public. It's mostly focused on press and retailers. But next to that, the Geneva Watch Days is apparently a great success. So it's growing in size. I did see a lot of cool things online.
Well, it was very well organized.
Yes.
And I do think the event is made by the people that attend. And you can see there was a lot of influence in the industry, let's say, was present there.
True.
So that was fine.
It was cool to see. Cool to see. So I'll put a link in the description about your panel that they can see everything back and in depth, also according to the comment from our friend. Next to that, I think we were talking about Patek and beautiful Pateks. I did forget to mention that I've been seeing some public advertising of famous people. Our friend Brad Pitt, our good friend Brad Pitt, who we know from all the movies, is wearing a 3700. I believe we have just purchased a 3700, so it's pretty cool to see that.
Well, we already paid for it. It still needs to come in. So
Yeah,
let's hope it's coming in.
exactly. Yeah,
3700J to be precise, so the yellow gold variant, which we traded, I think, 4 or 5 examples of. The one he was wearing is a gold dial.
Yes, champagne full.
Champagne,
Yeah, full.
which is not a standard option back then on the 3700s. So it's funny to see him wearing that watch. We sold one of those recently, I think half a year ago.
I think within 6 months ago. Yeah.
To the guy who we bought the other 3700
Exactly,
back, which has
exactly.
the blue dial. So he bought the champagne dial from us, and we're now getting back a 3700 with blue dial. Should be here either tomorrow or the day after. Still needs full revision and stuff, so it's gonna take 2
a while
or 3
for it's
months
online.
before it's back. But he was wearing that. But subsequently, what is even more interesting to me, because he also wore the 222, didn't he?
2526 he was wearing.
No,
Or
the 222 Vacheron. The
yes,
44018.
agreed. Yes.
Also in yellow gold, the vintage one, so not the re-edition. So I can see that is kind of his style, apparently, because they have quite
Similarities.
design language. Yet the 2526 that he wore, for me, that was spectacular. Because this is an example that is... I also made a video on the 2526, by the way. So really, you need to check out the KOV channel. Sorry for constantly plugging it. But this is a very important watch. Perhaps one of the most recognizable vintage Calatravas. It has a double baked enamel dial. And important on this, even though it's a dress watch, important on this model are the bracelet options by Gay Frère. The one he was wearing has the F bracelet. And I do believe this watch was acquired from Justin Grunberg because he had a watch just like this. The configuration Brad Pitt was wearing was the same as his. So it might be ex-watch of Justin, but it's spectacular. It's super stylish.
Yes, very nice, very nice. Looks like some of these famous people, it's very cool to see the online community always watching what famous people are wearing and then posting about it. I have to compliment the taste of Brad Pitt. Very nice choice of watches. Next to that, I think, one more comment that I got. It's very nice for an idea. So our friend Arnaud de Bal 8428 said, can you do a stone dial themed video? Maybe featuring, of course, the King Rolex, but also the king of stone dials being Piaget. Perhaps a good idea for a future video, since we're self-proclaimed stone dial lovers and professionals. So maybe we can do that in a future video.
Yeah, would be my pleasure. I don't think it's smart to go too much in depth on that subject. It might be nice just to show the varieties.
Or the ones we've sold.
The ones we've sold. We've sold many of them, of course. So it would be nice to indeed discuss and ask maybe the audience what kind of stone dials they like. See the varieties they offer, both within Rolex that we have a lot of experience with, and maybe explore Piaget a bit, because he's very right. Piaget has been very important using these minerals in their watches, so that can be quite interesting, and it's definitely a topic we're gonna do. Thank you for the suggestion.
Exactly. So I do want to motivate that people keep putting your comments down below with ideas you want to see of new videos. On that note, I think we've ended our episode number 2.
By the way, there was also a comment, because I just briefly read the comments.
Yes.
And there was also a comment of a guy saying we should do a video with producer Michael.
Oh yeah, yeah, I saw that one.
Firstly, he blocked us on Instagram, so that's not gonna happen. And secondly, he's probably the last guy I want to do a video with. I don't know if you know his reputation, but you might want to check out this Instagram account. It's called Baller Busters. This guy is not what he thinks he is, what he looks like he is.
Not the first person we want on here.
No.
Definitely not.
No.
And maybe not even the last. So on that note, we take your comments to heart. We read them all. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, and we hope to see you next week. Thank you.